Before we dive in, drop a quick giants in the comments if you're ready to see what happens when humanity is pushed too far. Every comment helps more sci-fi fans find this story, and I'd love to know who's here from the start. Now, let's begin. When peace burned, the first bomb fell before anyone on Nova Europa even realized they were at war. Fields of blue wheat turned to ash. Silver-glass towers crumbled. The twin suns vanished behind smoke as the sky burned red. No one believed the war would ever reach them. For generations, Nova Europa knew only peace. Children laughing in sunlit streets, marketplaces filled with life, and the quiet hum of a world that thought it was safe. But peace is fragile when you're human, in a galaxy that never forgets old grudges. The enemy arrived without warning. Sleek black ships cut through the atmosphere. No hails, no ultimatums. Just silent, merciless annihilation. By the end of the first hour, half the cities were rubble. Deep beneath New Paris, General Mara Voss stood in a dim bunker, eyes locked. On the holoscreens, as feeds from across the colonies flickered, Sigma Prime, high on reach, Enoch's cradle, all burning, her nails dug into her palms until blood welled. This wasn't war. It was extermination. Behind her, a voice broke through the hum of disaster. Where the hell are the giants? Mara turned slowly. Lieutenant Brandt, fresh out of the academy, his uniform too clean, his eyes too young. His voice trembled like a child asking if the monsters under the bed were real. For a moment, Mara wanted to tell him the truth. The giants were gone. Legends. Stories parents told their kids to remind them that humanity once stood tall against impossible odds. Titans. Bred when Earth learned it wasn't at the top of the food chain. Towering warriors built for strength, endurance, and fury. But myths don't save worlds. Instead, she said quietly, they come when it's bad enough. The bunker shook violently, closer this time. Dust rained from the ceiling as alarms blared. Mara grabbed her rifle from the wall and spun to her squad. We hold Sector 9 until the civilians are out, she barked. I don't care if this is the end. You hold the damn line. Ghost-faced soldiers scrambled, loading weapons with trembling hands. Minutes later, they emerged into chaos. The streets were unrecognizable. Bodies strewn across shattered pavement, smoke thick enough to suffocate, drones screaming overhead. Alien soldiers in dark, insect-like armor advanced without hesitation. Cold, efficient, unstoppable. Then Brandt fell, an energy blast punching through his chest plate. Mara dragged him behind cover, her heart hammering as blood pooled beneath him. Giants, he whispered, eyes glassy. Mara's throat tightened. She wanted to scream, wanted to beg the universe for backup that wasn't coming. And then, the ground began to move, not from bombs, not from collapsing buildings, from footsteps, heavy, thunderous, earth-cracking. Silence swept the battlefield. The enemy froze. Even the smoke seemed to pause. From beyond the ruins, massive figures emerged, humanoid, but far from human. Towering nearly 20 feet tall, clad in scarred armor that told stories of wars long forgotten, they carried weapons, the size of vehicles like they were toys. Mara's breath caught in her chest. At the front, a giant woman with a plasma-scorched arm hefted a hammer crackling with raw energy. Her voice rolled over the battlefield like a storm. You hit our worlds, she roared. Now you face our wrath. The legends have awoken, but can even giants turn the tide against annihilation? Let me know in the comments, what would you do if you saw them step onto your battlefield? And don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss Chapter 2, because the real battle is just beginning. The myths awaken. The words still echoed across the battlefield. Now you face our wrath. And then, the giants moved. It wasn't graceful. It wasn't tactical. It was pure, unrelenting fury. The giant woman, already being called Hammer over Open, Calms, charged first. Her weapon swung in a wide arc, the impact sending a dozen alien soldiers flying like broken dolls. The ground shook with every step she took, the air crackling with energy as her hammer roared. Behind her came the others. A massive figure with shoulders like tank armor, grim, raised a twin-barreled gun and unleashed destruction. Drones fell. From the sky, torn apart mid-flight. Alien formations that had advanced with precision moments ago now scattered in panic. Mara pushed through the chaos, dragging the unconscious Brant toward the evac zone. Around her, soldiers who had been pale with fear were now shouting, battle cries mixing with disbelief. Hope wasn't just alive, it was towering over them, but hope is never left unchallenged. A piercing shriek split the air. From above, sleek, black-armored enemy elites descended, faster, deadlier than anything before. These weren't soldiers. They were executioners. The first shuttle exploded in a fireball. Civilians screamed. Plasma bolts lit up the smoke-filled sky as the elites carved a path through soldiers and refugees alike. Mara dove behind a shuttle, rifle blazing until it overheated. It wasn't enough. The elites moved like shadows, weaving through gunfire, cutting down anyone too slow. Then, the shadow over her grew darker. A giant didn't walk onto the field this time. He fell. Warden. Older. Scarred, his armor a history of battles long past, crashed into the ground like a meteor. The impact split the earth, sending enemy troops sprawling. He rose, towering above the carnage, eyes glowing behind a battered helmet. His voice rolled out, low and dangerous. "You think you can wipe us out? Bomb our children and walk away?" He reached behind him, pulling free a massive twin-barrel gun that hummed with deadly energy. "Now," Warden snarled, "you deal with me." And when he pulled the trigger, the battlefield erupted. Twin blasts tore through the elites, vaporizing them in clusters. Those that survived turned to flee. But Warden wasn't done. He advanced, each step a declaration that humanity would not go quietly. Mara didn't waste the moment. "Move! Get them off this rock!" she screamed, waving civilians and soldiers toward the last shuttles. As they ran, Mara glanced back, unable to look away from the giants. Hammer swung her weapon with brutal precision, flattening enemy squads. Grim fired controlled bursts, cutting down anything that moved. Another giant hurled a wrecked vehicle like it was a pebble, smashing enemy command units. For the first time since the sky burned red, Mara felt something fierce ignite in her chest. Not fear, not grief, pride. Earth wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. But as the last shuttles prepped for takeoff, a new threat loomed overhead. An enemy warship descending, its cannons spinning up, targeting the evac zone. Mara's heart froze. Not now. Not after everything. The warship's guns glowed ominously, and then, from nowhere, a giant leapt onto its hull, armor gleaming with crude hand-painted kill marks. With a roar that shook the heavens, he ripped into the ship's core. Flames burst from its belly as it spiraled out of control, crashing into the distant hills in a fireball that lit up the night sky. The giants didn't just fight, they dominated. As the shuttle lifted off, Mara slumped into a seat beside Brant, watching through the viewport as the giants held the line, immovable, unbreakable. Beside her, Brant stirred, his voice a hoarse whisper. "Giants." Mara allowed herself a grim smile, her heart still pounding. "Yeah," she murmured. "Giants." But deep down, she knew. This war was far from over. The giants turned the tide today. But can they save Earth itself? Let me know in the comments. Do you trust these legends? Or are they just another kind of monster? Hit like and subscribe so you don't miss Chapter 3, because the true cost of survival is about to be revealed. Humanity's monsters. The shuttle rattled as it climbed through Nova Europa's ashen skies. Civilians wept. Soldiers sat in stunned silence, staring at nothing. The stench of smoke clung to everything. Mara sat near the hatch, rifle across her lap, not because she needed it, but because old habits die hard. Beside her, Brant was stable but pale, an IV drip keeping him tethered to life. Whispers filled the cabin. They were real. I saw one tear a tank in half. Giants saved us. Mara ignored them, her mind locked on what she had witnessed. The giants weren't myths, they weren't just soldiers. They were something humanity had buried, and now, unleashed. The pilot's voice crackled overhead. Approaching Earth orbit base, docking in 30 minutes. Mara didn't feel relief. If the war had reached the colonies, Earth wouldn't be far behind. When they docked, chaos swallowed her. Medics rushed the wounded. Officers barked orders. Holographic battle maps displayed entire sectors under siege. At the heart of it all stood General Marcus Hale, a relic of wars past, his silver beard and cybernetic eye marking him as a man who had seen too much and survived anyway. His gaze locked onto Mara the moment she entered the war room. You saw them, he said. No greeting, no preamble. Mara nodded, still catching her breath. The giants, they're real. Hale's mouth twitched, half grimace, half something like regret. They were never a myth, he said quietly. We just made people forget. Mara frowned. Why? Hale gestured to an old holo feed. Grainy footage flickered to life. Giants in crude. Armor stomping across alien battlefields, crushing enemies beneath their boots. The Titans Project, Hale explained. 2 centuries ago, when Earth met the galaxy. We learned fast we weren't the apex predators, so we built something no one would expect. Not machines, not bombs, humans. He pointed at the towering figures. On the screen. Enhanced growth, regeneration, muscle density off the charts. They were designed for one thing, war. Mara swallowed hard. And when the wars ended? Hale's expression darkened. We buried them, locked them away, some in cryosleep, others vanished into the wilds. We promised ourselves humanity would never need monsters again. He turned to face her fully, his cybernetic eye glowing faintly. But monsters are exactly what we need now. Mara's stomach twisted. She thought of Hammer's roar, Grimm's cold efficiency, Warden's sacrifice. They're fighting for us? She asked, almost not believing it. Hale's voice dropped. For now. But don't fool yourself. They remember what we did to them. When this war ends, if it ends, we'll face a new fight. Mara stared at the battle maps. Whole systems gone dark. Earth likely days from invasion. She squared her jaw. We cross that bridge later. Right now we survive. Hale nodded once, approval flickering in his gaze. You're assigned to Titan Liaison Command, he said, handing her a data pad. You leave in 1 hour. Pack light. You'll be fighting side by side with them. Mara blinked. I'm what? They trust you, Hale said simply. You stood with them. Now they need a human face, someone who remembers they're more than weapons. An alert flashed on the datapad. Earth offensive. Phase 1. Mara didn't waste time. She grabbed fresh gear and followed the coordinates deep into the station. Off. The grid, off the books. Hangar 17 was nothing like the polished bays above. It was dark, industrial, and filled with shadows that moved. The giants were waiting. Hammer leaned on her massive weapon, laughing at something Rook, scarred and wild-eyed, had said. Grimm sat silently, cleaning his gun with methodical precision. And watching them all was the oldest giant, the one who had fallen like a meteor, Warden. When Mara stepped forward, they turned as one. Hammer grinned. Well, if it isn't the little soldier who stood her ground. Mara forced herself to stand tall, hiding the fear knotting in her chest. General Hale sent me. Said you might need coordination. Rook snorted like it was the funniest word he'd ever heard. Hammer slammed her hammer down with a clang. You fought, you bled, that's enough for me. Grimm gave a slow nod, his expression unreadable. Warden stepped forward, towering over her like a mountain of old scars and iron will. Stay sharp. Stay honest. You might live through what's coming. Mara swallowed hard. What is coming? Warden gestured to a battered holo map. Enemy fleets swarmed around the moon, thousands of ships converging on one target. They're going for the lunar shield array, Warden said. Take that down, and Earth falls. Mara's heart pounded. If we lose the moon, we lose everything. Warden finished. Hammer's eyes burned with fierce fire. That's why we're not letting them. Mara looked at this brutal, half-forgotten pack of titans, and for the first time in days, she felt something other than fear. She felt hope. Warden's voice rumbled like distant thunder. We move in 2 hours. No backup, no cavalry, just us. Mara met his gaze without flinching. And me. Warden's mouth twisted into something between a smile and a warning. Yeah, you too, little soldier. The Titans are gearing up for a battle that will decide Earth's fate. No backup, no retreat. Are you ready for the drop? Comment for Earth if you'd stand with them. So you're strapped in for Chapter 4, because the last stand begins now. The last stand on the moon. The drop shuttle wasn't built for giants. Hammer hunched forward, gripping her restraints like she might tear through the hull. Rook sat cross-legged, plasma cannon across his knees. Grim stood because there was no seat big enough to hold him. Warden stared ahead, helmet in his lap, his eyes burning like coals. Mara sat among them, feeling impossibly small, but determined. Outside, the lunar shield array loomed, 12 colossal towers linked by glowing energy lines. Earth's last. Defense, and it was falling. Enemy ships swarmed like locusts, hammering the array. Human defenders were being overrun. Brace for combat drop in 30 seconds, the pilot called out. The giants didn't flinch. They just shifted, like predators waiting to be unleashed. The hatch light flicked from red to green. The doors blew open, and the giants jumped. No drop pods, no finesse, just raw fury hurtling toward the moon like falling gods. Mara unbuckled, heart racing, and followed, her mag pack barely keeping her descent controlled. Below, the battlefield was chaos. Alien infantry swarmed the towers. Plasma fire lit up the dark lunar sky. Human forces were pinned, dying by the minute. Then the HFY giants hit. Warden landed like a meteor, sending enemy soldiers flying in every direction. Hammer crashed through a shield generator roof, roaring as her weapons shattered bone and metal alike. Grim's twin-barrel gun opened up, mowing down entire squads with each deafening burst. Rook rolled to his feet, grinning like a madman plasma. Cannon already firing. Mara hit hard, rolled, and came up shooting, darting between wreckage, calling out enemy positions over comms. The tide turned instantly. The enemy panicked, scattering under the brutal assault, but the shield array was already failing. Critical damage, came the desperate call over comms. If that tower goes down, Earth's defenses are gone. Warden growled, pointing at Mara. With me. Now. They charged toward the collapsing tower, enemy fire raining down around them. Grim and Rook covered their advance, while Hammer demolished an artillery line single-handedly. Inside the tower, enemy troops swarmed the core, trying to destroy it from within. Warden didn't hesitate. He smashed through them like a force of nature, while Mara fought to secure the control panels. Then, everything stopped. Standing over the generator was an alien commander, clad in black armor, wielding a jagged staff pulsing with dark energy. Warden's voice was a low snarl. "You're the one behind this." The commander struck first, an energy blast that slammed into Warden, staggering even him. But Warden straightened and smiled. The duel was brutal. Flesh, steel, and dark power collided as Mara fought to keep the core online. But when the alien pulled a crimson crystal grenade, Mara's blood ran cold. "He's going to blow the core." Without hesitation, Warden hurled the commander skyward, where the alien detonated in midair, a flare of red light rocking the tower. The core was damaged, failing fast. Mara scrambled to the controls. 5 minutes. "Maybe less," she said, breathless. Warden nodded once. Calm in the face of doom. "That's enough." Outside, the enemy regrouped, elites pouring in for the kill. Warden called the giants. "Last stand." Hammer's voice crackled with savage joy. "Hell yes!" Grim and Rook answered, already moving into position. The enemy stormed the tower, but they didn't find desperation. They found monsters standing tall. The giants tore through wave after wave, but the elites were faster, deadlier. One by one, the titans took wounds. Grim shot through the chest, Rook losing an arm but laughing as he fought on. Mara held the core, firing until her weapons overheated, but too many slipped past. Warden saw it and made his choice. He grabbed Mara, pulled her clear, and punched his fist into the core's heart. "Warden, no!" Mara screamed. He looked at her, eyes soft for the first time. "Monsters built to fight," he rumbled, "but still human." He shoved her away and stepped into the core. The shields erupted, blazing with renewed power, vaporizing enemy forces and sending a shockwave that shattered the enemy fleet above. When the light faded, Warden was gone. The battlefield fell silent. The enemy was broken, retreating. Mara rose to her feet, tears streaking her face as Earth Command crackled over comms. Shield confirmed active. Enemy retreating. Hammer placed a heavy hand on Mara's shoulder. "He chose his way," she said quietly. Mara nodded, voice trembling. He was human, the best of us. The giants, battered, bloodied but unbowed, stood beside her. They weren't myths, they weren't monsters. They were the guardians of Earth. And now the galaxy knew, you can bomb our worlds, you can burn our homes. But when you come for humanity's children, we send our giants, and they will not be stopped. The battle is won, but at a cost. If this story hit you like it hit me, comment for Warden to honor the sacrifice. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with anyone who believes humanity always fights back. And remember, when the galaxy pushes too far, we send our giants.